What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the FOMOFanz podcast. I am excited to be here, excited to be talking to you guys. My name is Brian Fanzo. As always, you guys know that. I am the only host of the show, and today I have a great topic for you. It's something that I've been writing a lot about. It's something I've been researching, and it's something that came really top of mind after a great discussion with a good friend of mine. And we're going to be talking personal branding, and really what does personal branding mean in 2019? Where should we be going with that? If you think you know what personal branding is, I might be able to enlighten you. I think marketers have kind of ruined it or said the wrong thing in some cases, and in other cases, I think we have to rethink what our personal brand means, how we're looking at our personal brand, and ultimately, even what does it mean into the future. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the role artificial intelligence, the role AR and VR are going to play when it comes to understanding personal branding, understanding ourselves, everything from your resume to even, maybe if you're getting a car loan or credit. So that's going to be the topic on this episode. I also want to thank our sponsor, iOgrapher. I'm going to do a giveaway at the end of the episode. You guys will just have to do something small for me. And I'm going to give away one of the iOgrapher cases. It's the multi-phone case for you guys to live stream, to take pictures with. It's the professional gear that I use. And the cool part is it works for all phones, both Android and iPhone. So it doesn't matter what your preferred measure is. We will be able to, this device will be able to work for you guys. It's the tool that I use. I've used it twice today in the videos that I've been creating. So personal branding, and really what does personal branding mean? I really wanted to kind of hit home on this because I think for many of us in marketing and for many that are my peers, they kind of feel like personal branding has been kind of beat to death. It's something that people have been talking about for a long time. A lot of people don't like the term. I'm also one that the term kind of has always been funky for me. There's also this element where let's just say overnight celebrities or people that quote unquote have got a TED talk out of nowhere. All of a sudden they were giving personal branding advice. And so on this show, I want to talk about personal branding kind of at a little bit different layer or different level, where we're going to talk a little bit more about it from like the level of, you aren't famous. You aren't a supermodel. You don't have a massive YouTube channel. You're maybe you work for your a local coffee shop. Maybe you work for a big business. Maybe you're an entrepreneur or a small business owner. Maybe you're just a college grad and you want to figure out what all this means. I'm going to break down kind of why I think it's more important in 2019 than ever before to understand personal branding. But part of this came into fruition, or part of the reason that I wanted to talk about this topic is that I had a good friend of mine reach out to me, and he's like, Brian, I really need your help, and he's working in a enterprise company right now, and he's like, I don't really understand the difference between posting personal account or posting on my business account. Should I put the name of my company in my description? And then he also talked about what his role was, and what he was qualifying was, he was like, well, my role doesn't really use social media or digital marketing or things online. So I don't know if I really need something online. And for me, this kind of set me off. And I ended up talking to him for about an hour and a half. And that's really the gist of the show, because here's the thing that I want people to remember, what I want you to think about is that your reputation, your authenticity, your ability to connect with people, oftentimes, is without, and I would say in 2019, no doubt about it, it is everything when it comes to online, right? And funny enough, for me, I'm very connected, digitally connected, and when I meet somebody new, whenever I'm connecting with somebody new, and this could be offline at a restaurant, and someone's like, hey Brian, I'm gonna bring such and such over to get to know you, I'm gonna Google their name, right? I'm gonna immediately Google their name, or I'm gonna go into LinkedIn to look them up, and that's something that is how I use to get to know someone, right? I want to know what they're about, what business they work for. But ultimately, it kind of gives you that snapshot. And so, weirdly enough, I think for many people, we understand the importance of a first impression, right? We buy, we take a shower and we wear clean clothes because we understand we want to portray ourselves in a positive way, right? Quote unquote, don't judge a book by its cover. I would say judging a book by its cover happens online now, much more so than offline. And rather than investing in what clothing you're wearing offline, I think it's even more important now to have a strategy and understand what story you're conveying online, right? And so if you're listening to this right now and you're like, I'm not even really sure what I'm talking about, I just challenge you to Google your first name, last name. Put your first name, last name in quotation marks in Google and see what the results are. Now, if you're logged into all your tools, go into your incognito browser. So just go File, Incognito browser, and then put your name in there so it doesn't give you kind of the adjusted results based on the accounts you're logged into. But check and see what are the results people get when they first are first putting your name in, right? And this is something I take to the extreme, right? So I do this on every platform. So I go on LinkedIn and type in my name. I go on YouTube, type in my name. I go on Facebook and type in my name because I want to see what results are serving up when someone's searching for me, because I believe this is really important. It's really important in business. It's really important in the personal life. And funny enough, I was on a podcast this week. It was a dating podcast. And I also think personal branding is extremely important in your personal life, right? And in your personal life, you have to start thinking about it and saying, how am I portrayed publicly? What is the story people are hearing about me? And I think part of the problem is with those that are quote unquote personal branding experts is many of them didn't build a personal brand. They actually either they won a competition, they won an award, maybe they put out a bunch of books. For me, I remember in 2013, I made a conscious effort that I said, you know what, I'm going to go all in on Twitter. And then in 2014, I realized I needed to be more than just Twitter. I needed to have a home, a digital home. I needed to be on more platforms. I needed to create content to get my story out there. And so this is where I think we're going. And I'm going to talk a little bit about artificial intelligence and go a little bit geeky on this down the road. But I also think, one of the things that's interesting is marketers have stepped away from the concept of personal branding, because here's the weird thing. Most marketers, most entrepreneurs have figured out personal branding, but almost everyone else hasn't, right? Even different generations haven't figured out the importance of telling their story online, the importance of having a public profile. This is a discussion I have all the time, is that, well, I don't want my profiles to be public. Well, that's fine, but the things that do show up that are public, that you should be something that you care about. And I don't care if you're working offline 100%. Maybe it's you're getting a promotion and your boss is looking up your name. Maybe someone transfers in and starts to work on your team and they're Googling your name, and the results or the things that are out there about you aren't flattering, or maybe even worse, there's not much out there. For me, if you send me an email that you want to do work with me, or I've been having a lot of calls with speaker bureaus recently, if you contact me, the first thing I do is I read the email, I go down to your name, I copy paste it and put it in LinkedIn, and I want to know how long you've worked at that company, what your background is, and who else you're connected to in my network. That's my first instinct. And that might sound crazy, but that's also the first instinct of many of the younger generation that's out there, right? And so when we're starting to think about this, yes, entrepreneurs maybe have figured out personal branding. I'd argue they haven't. The other step of this is you have to start thinking about it and saying, what does this mean in the bigger picture? Because right now in the world we're living in today, we have the Me Too movement. We have bad news everywhere on all the different channels. And I believe every person is a content creator or a content documenter or a content sharer. But more importantly, I believe everyone has a story to tell. Every person that's listening to this podcast right now has a story to tell. Now, the question becomes, where do you start? Who do you tell your story to? And then why do you tell your story? And the why is simply this. You no longer are just about the people that you know locally and people that meet you one-on-one, right? The opportunities for us in this world today are amazing. You have the ability to connect with people around the world. There are no limitations on your background, no limitations on your resume, no limitations on what race you are, what your sexual preference is. You have the ability to leverage digital media, public social media to connect with people around the world, and you never know how they could impact your life, connect with you in different ways. The question becomes, are you out there, and is the story you're telling reflecting on the person that you are? And it's amazing for me whenever I talk to people and they tell me, when I meet them offline for the first time, and they're sharing their story and they're telling me what their passions are. And they're like, I'm a passionate mom and I've been working on these 3 side projects and I have this business. And on my day job, I happen to work as an executive at this company. I also love this sports team. And we connect on this really deep level. And then when I connect with them online, all I see is their business and all I see is what they do for a living. And I'm like, well, if we had connected online only, I wouldn't have had interest in you, right? I wouldn't have connected with you. And so I always say, what works when you're networking offline should be part of the story of what you're telling online. Now, the other question I get is like, okay, Brian, where do I start? Or do I need a personal one and a business one? And it comes down to this. In 2019, and it's been the case for a while, people do business with people. I don't care if you're B2B, B2C. I don't care if you're an entrepreneur. I don't care if you're a small business owner. People do business with people. And so you need to tell your story from your point of view. And if you work for a company, I'm happy to talk about ways that you can integrate your company's brand into your message. But if in today's day and age, if a company is worried about someone's personal brand being too big or too popular, that company has way bigger problems than personal branding, because the employees are what make up a great company. A great company is great because they have great employees. And the more great employees you have that are shining a light, that are growing their brand, that are establishing thought leadership, the better it is for your company, the better it is for employee morale, the better it is to inspire others that are in your company that are doing things, right? And so I think this is something that we have to start thinking about beyond that. And weirdly enough, yes, marketers might think personal branding the drum has been beaten too much. But I think for many people that are out there today, they looked and said, okay, well, I have a Facebook account. Maybe I have an Instagram account. I created a LinkedIn account years ago when I was looking for a job. And they just kind of leave that out there for them. And what I believe is, I think not only do we all have a story to tell, but I also believe we all have a value to add to the world. And I'm going to get a little sentimental here a little bit, but I believe the world needs more empathy, right? We need a more empathetic world. I don't think anyone could argue about the need for our world to be more empathetic. Here's the thing. We cannot have more empathy until more people are sharing their story, more people are sharing their vulnerabilities, more people are transparent with who they are. Because empathy requires us to be able to walk in your shoes, to understand your pain points, to understand where you're coming from, why you do what you do, who impacts your life. Maybe there's something you had in your childhood that has shaped the way that you are in your 40s or 50s. Maybe it's something in your 30s that has turned you into a whole new person in your 40s or 50s. Maybe in your 20s now, you're what you've learned and what you're growing. And so this is where I look at it and say, if we want a more empathetic world, we first must empower our own individual story. And I think we need to start by doing that and saying, okay, what's out there as a whole? And then what can I add to the world, right? And it's really easy, to create content and media. As you guys know, I love video. I think video is amazing. My book that I'm writing is called Press the Damn Button. A lot of that was inspired by video, but Press the Damn Button is more about your storytelling. It's more about what I'm talking about right here. And I think it goes beyond just, hey, you don't, back in the day you had I didn't want to have a blog because I'm not a blogger. Well, here in today's day and world, everyone has a story to tell, and writing, just if you write copy, every Facebook post that you post on your public Facebook account is an element of telling your story, right? Every time, and this is also something that's important, every digital action that you take, is also an element of your personal brand. It's an element of your reputation. It's an element of your trustability. Every group that you belong to, every time you subscribe to something or you share it on your accounts. And I think right now, people, we saw what recently happened with Kevin Hart, where Kevin Hart ended up not being the host of the of the Golden Globes because of a tweet that he sent in 2010 that he's apologized for 100 times. And unfortunately, that really inconsiderate tweet alienated so many people that he had to remove himself from the Golden Globes. And the piece that I want to share about this for everyone that's out there is that you might not think that your story matters. You might not think that you need to tell your story in your business or your day-to-day life. But I will promise you this. Other people are searching for you. Other people are looking for you. And as our world gets more connected, as we get more dialed in, we have 5G technology coming out, which is going to allow us to be hyper connected. This data and this information in the world today is going to be even more valuable, because think about it this way. When we're going to start, all of our public data that is out there is going to be integrated into our interactions, right? When you check into something, someone's going to know about you. And that might be scary for people, but here's the thing. Get over it. I'm going to tell you pretty easily, get over it. The world we're living in today is less about privacy and more about sharing who you are. I believe your vulnerabilities become your superpowers. I believe that the more transparent our world becomes, yes, it's going to expose a lot of ugliness. We've already seen that with all the Me Too movement and everything that's going on. There's lots of ugly, but there's also lots of greatness. There's so many great people doing great things that haven't been exposed. There's so many great people that are changing the world, that have the ability to impact others. And I believe you are doing a disservice to the world if you aren't sharing your story or having your story out there. And that doesn't mean you have to be on every social network. That doesn't mean you have to be writing content every single day. But what it does mean is that what your online story tells about you is impacting more than just you. It could be impacting your kids. I mean, think about it this way. If you have kids that are going into high school or applying for college, and the college Googles your kid's name and something comes up about you that isn't true, is there anything else on the internet that challenges that, right? Like, and I worked in cybersecurity, so I understand that some people don't like putting their public information out there, and people are in this like big delete Facebook phase. Well, here's the thing. I think you have to get over it. I don't think there's an option. We're living in a more connected, more dialed-in world where data is the currency, data is everything, data is power, and that's not slowing down. And when we start adding artificial intelligence into our email, I mean, when I'm on Gmail, I have a couple plugins that come in, and when someone sends me an email that's never emailed me before, I get a little drop down that says everything about that person that is on their public social media accounts. And if you have nothing on there or you haven't updated it in years, that's telling me something about you. I'm judging you before you have the chance to defend yourself. And so, yes, I believe entrepreneurs have figured most of this out. Yes, I believe marketers have talked about it. But I think it's even more important today than it is ever before for us to get out there and inspire others to tell their story. Because right now, there's a lot of bad news on the internet. There's a lot of bad things going on. But I truly believe the world is good. I'm without question, an optimist. And I believe the more we empower others to share their story, the more people that talk about things like that are faux pas, right? Like things like sexual disease or mental health, mental illness. The more we start putting out there to the world, the more we're going to learn together, the more we can support each other, the more we can connect at a deeper level. And I would argue that almost everyone here in the world today wants a more empathetic world, wants to connect at a deeper level. But unfortunately, there's so many people that aren't telling their story. There's so many people that aren't out there doing their thing. And this doesn't even mean you need a website. This doesn't mean, I'm a big believer, if you guys use medium.com, medium.com is a free site. It was an offshoot of Twitter where you can create a blog and a landing page on medium.com. Or if you don't even want to do that, you don't want to blog, but you need a landing page, go to about.me, about.me. It's a free site. What you do is you upload a picture, you put your name, you put your job in there, you put a little description, and then you link your social media accounts out there. But at least if you have that, that's a home. That's something where you're able to tell your story. Because I always say that control is an illusion. And you can't control what people talk about you. You can't control what is posted about you. Sometimes you can't control what your Google search results are. But if you're not doing anything about it, if you're not putting out your message, your story, you sure as hell aren't. Not only you can't control it, you're letting someone else control your narrative. And I'm thinking about things. I'm looking at for a new vehicle, and it's very funny because technically our credit score is all about our trust, right? The credit score is built on the idea of how trustworthy is this person at paying their bills to pay this back, right? And I would argue that the credit score is archaic and out of date and broken, right? It's completely broken. The way that it's managed, the way that people have manipulated it, and some, with the housing crisis and all the things that are going on. But I think we should start to look at it and saying, what's the trust score of this person online? Like, what is their reputation? And reputation matters. And I don't care if you're not looking for a job. I don't care if you're happy with the company you have. I don't care if you're a stay-at-home mom. I believe there are many, many reasons and ways that your personal brand can help you, can help others, and together we can start making a difference. And the piece about this that I want to make sure you guys understand, it's not just about talking about what you do. Because here's the thing, most people don't care about what you do for business. What we do care about is why you do what you do. What drives you? What is your passion? Like I would argue when someone Googles you, they should see what you are passionate about. They should see what you care about. I would even argue that people should understand your greater purpose in life. They should start to understand what your dreams are. And yes, this could be scary for some people that don't want to put themselves out there, but you put yourself out there offline and think about all the things that have happened in your life, all of the great people you've met, all of the great connections you've met. Imagine the possibilities if you open that up online. Imagine that if you started to share that more publicly. Imagine the opportunities for new people to meet, new conversations to have, and even to the standpoint of, what if you get in a car accident, or what if something happens to you? What is your ability to grow beyond what you're currently working in? I believe if you're not investing in your personal brand, not only are you locking your feet in the ground, but you're locking your feet in the ground and you're letting someone else decide what clothes you wear and what first impression that you are giving off. And I've been saying this a lot, but I think, today, every business, every entrepreneur, every person online, you are in the business of trust. How do I build trust? How do I establish trust? How do I maintain trust? Maybe how do I repair trust? And when you move this needle forward, it starts to mean you need to start to tell your story. I think, the world we're living in right now, it's easy to launch a podcast. It's easy to go live on Facebook Live. It's easy to write a blog post and post it on Medium or LinkedIn Publisher. These are all things that used to be very difficult. You had to have a website, and you had to have podcasting. You had to have like a computer science degree to do all of the ID3 tagging and everything. Today, day and age, 2019, everyone has the ability to be a creator, to be a documenter, more importantly, to be a storyteller of their story. And this also comes down to, I believe in the power of collaboration. And one of the most important things for me has been self-awareness and self-assessment, understanding who I am, what I am good at, because I want to surround myself with people that are good at things that I am not. But you cannot do that. People will not find you if you're not first telling your story. And you might not, and this goes down to like my parents. This goes down, even my brothers who aren't huge on social media and they don't have a giant personal brand. But like my brothers are amazing at what they do. And the opportunities for them to expand those opportunities are endless if they invest a little bit more time. And this doesn't take hours every week. This doesn't take, you could spend 30 minutes a week if you wanted to and really invest on telling stories and creating content and putting yourself out there. But I believe, as we get more artificial intelligence, where more of our data is starting to be shared, for us, we have to embrace transparency. We have to be okay with our vulnerabilities. I've talked about it on this show. I was diagnosed ADHD at 31 years old. In 2016, I experienced depression for the very first time. I didn't really understand it. I probably would have argued that it wasn't a disease or something that hit people, but it was something that impacted me. These are vulnerabilities that many people might not be willing to share, but I know by putting them out there, I will help other people know that they're not alone. I'll have other people give me advice on how I can push things through. And I think in this world we're living in right now, there are way too many people that feel like they're alone. There are way too many people that are scared of the unknown. There are way too many diseases and things that haven't been cured. And I believe the more of us that are transparent, that share our story, that put ourselves out there, the better the world will be, the better your business will be, the better your personal life will be. If you're struggling on dating apps right now, if you're on dating apps, I would check what happens when someone Googles you. What happens? Oh, it's that Instagram account that you created 4 years ago that has 4 pictures of you smoking a bong. That's what comes up when someone's searching for you that's looking at you in a dating app. What if you're running for the homeowners association in your neighborhood and they do a quick search of who you are, and maybe it has a really bad review of a previous job that you worked on, or maybe it has something that you don't care about anymore, maybe a political rant. Like, I really do think it's important to assess what your digital footprint is today. Start making the changes and telling your story and putting your voice out there. And then ultimately understanding that this data, this information is only going to grow in importance. It's only going to grow in value, not only for businesses, but for other people. And people are going to start to collaborate and connect with people at some amazing levels. And we're going to be able to do some amazing things, both charity, both social good. But we can't do that until more people tell their story, more people put themselves out there. And here's the last part about this is, don't take the advice from a supermodel or for some celebrity or from someone that got overnight success and their video went viral. They don't know how to grow a personal brand. Growing a personal brand takes time. It takes investment. What I always say is, don't grow a following on a social media channel. Grow a community that will follow you no matter where you go. And what that requires is you putting your story out there, you being active, you finding your best medium. And last but not least, I will say this. If you're struggling on where to start, what I recommend is figure out what your favorite way of telling your story is. If you like talking, launch a podcast. If you don't mind getting on video, do video where you're telling your story. If you like writing things down, write a blog or go on medium.com, and like I said, and create a free account. What I want people to do today and what I want this to be about is that personal branding is something marketers have stopped talking about it, and it's because, let's face it, a lot of marketers aren't good at their own personal brand. Marketers as a whole were really good at telling other people what to do. But if you look at many of the personal branding experts, to me, it's amazing. People will tell you, well, how to grow an Instagram account, and they're also a personal branding expert. Yet you Google their name, and they only have 3 results, and they haven't told their story anywhere, and they're not active on other channels. And so to me, this is all about, it takes baby steps to get started. You have to start putting yourself out there. You will find your tribe. You will connect with your community. And overall, the best way to do this is to show you care about others. And what I like to say is curate content, amplify people that are in your network. Maybe you don't want to post on social media, but on your social media account, maybe you're inspired by Brene Brown, or maybe you're inspired by Richard Branson, or maybe you're inspired by Mel Robbins, or maybe you're inspired by Kendra Hall. Share their content, because everything you share also shows up in who you are, right? And so when I look at someone's profile, when I look at something, I not only look at the things that they're saying, but I look at the things that they're not saying, and I look at the things that they're sharing. Who are you aligning yourself with? Who do you want people to say, hey, I believe in this person? And sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's good, but this is something you have to think about. And I've always said that, for me, when I put my vulnerabilities out there, when I admit that I talk fast, when I share a lot of these things that I put out there, what I tell people is it disarms the trolls. Haters don't really have anything to say about me because I put it all out there, and I'm telling my story. And the thing about haters will bash you until they run out of things to bash you about, and they'll move on to someone else. And so if you're scared of the unknown, if you're scared about what people will say with you, yes, sometimes people will say bad things. Yes, some people will say things that might be hurtful, but remember, that's a reflection on them, not you. And if you're telling your story, there'll be more good things out there in the world about you. You'll be able to impact others. And I think 2019, you have to start investing in who you are. And if you are listening to this and you're like, hey, I already know personal branding, talk to your sister, talk to your brother, talk to your friend, talk to your neighbor, talk to your coworker, and let them know the importance. The more good people putting their story out there, the more people that are doing great things, the better the world will be. And last but not least, if you suck offline, don't suck online, right? Like don't build your personal brand. It's the hardest thing about personal branding is if you are trying to be something you are not. To make this whole thing easy, what I just talked about in this episode, the easiest way to do this is to be yourself always. What you share online is the same thing you share offline. Treat online like you do the golf course or the beauty salon. What you talk about at the beauty salon should be what you talk about online. What you talk about on the golf course should be what you talk about online. It's no longer about offline versus online or personal versus business. It is about sharing your story, connecting with people, and letting people know who you are. So real quick, I want to do a giveaway for the podcast sponsor, iOgrapher. So I have a bunch of these cases. I'm going to be giving them out different times, different places. But for those of you that are listening to this podcast episode, if you share this podcast on the Twitter, yes, it is a Twitter-only contest, so you will need Twitter on this one. I will do a different contest that doesn't Twitter only. But share this podcast link out on Twitter. Use hashtag FOMOFanz, hashtag FOMOFanz, and I'm going to pick a winner in 3 days from when this podcast goes live. I'm going to pick a winner of that will get shipped this case for you guys to use for live streaming, for creating content. The great part is the case works for everything, both iPhone and Android. You guys are really going to enjoy this. So like I said, just share out. You can tag me, iSocialFans, and a shout out to iOgrapher. Great products, great brand, great leader, Dave over there that runs that company. So check them out, iOgrapher.com, and I will make sure that you guys get a copy or you get your hands on one of these awesome cases. So until next time, you guys, thanks so much for tuning in to episode 90. We are 10 episodes away from the big 100. Thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of the FOMOFanz podcast. Until next time, my friends, cheers. Make it a great day. And remember, go above and beyond to make other people's lives better. You'll be amazed at the impact that has on others. Till next time, cheers.